I'd like to show you what MyOn will look like from a student's perspective if they log in on a laptop. This will be very similar if they use an iPad as well, as long as they're going through Safari. There's also an app that they could use on the iPad which works just as well. It just displays a little bit differently. This video will specifically be recorded from my MacBook. So the first thing you want to do is have your students log into MyOn.com. You might think about having that linked to your web page. They'll need to enter their school name. We currently have this at the Elementary and Central Park buildings. And then they'll enter their username, which is their lunch number, and their password is also their lunch number. Some teachers have gone to the trouble of making little cards with their username and passwords for all the students. So you can see I'm logged in as a student right now. Here's the name up here. This looks a little differently than it used to. This is kind of a nice feature. It shows the student's current lexile level. This little motorcycle, as the student reads more, this motorcycle will move along this track until they reach their goal. The first time that your student logs in on MyOn, they may or may not be prompted to take an initial benchmark test, which just asks a series of a few questions depending on how well they do. This is something that can't be avoided regardless of the grade level of the child. So those of you who are teaching kindergarten, first grade, you might want to take that into account and just be aware that that benchmark will pop up. So here I am logged in as a student. I see that there are some books here that are recommended for me. These look like Spanish books, and I'm not sure why Taylor would be assigned Spanish books. I'm wondering if that's maybe a mistake. Let me show you how you can change that. If I select the student's name up here, then you can see that these options are opened up. I'm going to go to their interest tab here, and from here I'm going to change that to English and take off Spanish. And then notice here, this is also an interest inventory, and this might look a little bit different if you're a Central Park teacher, but this is what it looks like for elementary teachers. The student sees the topic and then chooses how they feel about that particular genre or topic. So when I've worked with students, I've just encouraged them to select the smiley face on all of the areas, especially if you have a non-reader. They might not be able to sound these words out, or these like social studies, language arts, that might not mean anything to a kindergartner, let's say. So hitting a smiley face will just give them more books in their recommended list, and will give them more options in their library, so that's not going to hurt anything. Okay, so I've made some changes here. Hopefully English is selected, and I've changed from frowny faces to smiley faces. I need to hit save. Okay, my selections have been saved. So I'm going to come back up here to the library. And my options here in the library are books that are recommended based on my interest inventory, which I just did. I can browse the library. I can check my list of favorites, or I can search for a specific title. For example, if you as a teacher have found a specific set of books that you would like your students to work on, you could have them look up a specific book and take some action on that book. There's also projects that I won't get into on this video, but projects is a new feature that MyOn just came out with last year that's really pretty nice. But I'm just going to show you the basics. So if I'm logging on as a student, this is probably what will happen most likely. They're going to go to Browse. From here I can put in a filter. Do I want fiction or nonfiction? I'm going to select fiction. See the little filter up there. I'm going to select animals, and I can see there's 17 books in my in this category here. This is kind of somewhat limited, I think, because my lexile level is pretty low. Okay, here's some books that I can choose from. I'm going to select Cast the Monkey. These three buttons here are the eye will give you information, the heart will add this book to my list of favorites, and the green will just get me into the area where I can have the book read to me. Okay, I can go ahead and hit continue the book.
Cass is a happy monkey. She lives in a big zoo in the middle of the city.
So this is kind of a neat feature. I wanted to show you these tools down here at the bottom. Hopefully you can see them. If I select the journaling tool, some different options pop up here. I can actually select the journal and I could type some notes here that the teacher actually can have access to when the teacher logs in. I think one feature that I think I would use a lot in my classroom is I would select highlighter. I would give my students an objective and say, for example, open up your book, get a highlighter, and highlight all of the adjectives in your book. So I've selected my highlighter. I'm going to select the adjectives. Hopefully that's all of them. This pen tool, I can change the size of my pen. I can change the color. Let's say I wanted to color in or circle the proper nouns. Anyhow, you get the idea. These tools are pretty neat. There's a little drawing feature and a sticky note feature, and these are saved on the student's account, and again the teacher can log in on her account and see what things his or her student has done within MyOn. So when I'm ready to progress to the next page, obviously I'll just click this little arrow.
The zoo gives Cass and the other animals a wonderful place to live.
I can turn the reading off if I want. I think most students like to have the books read to them, but know that you have that option. And you as a teacher can log in on your account and make it so the books are never read to the children. If I get into a book that I don't like, I just hit the home button and that should take me back where I can search again. So that's the basics of MyOn that I think might be helpful for you to be aware of. The majority of your students will have used MyOn for the last few years and will feel pretty confident, but if you have a new move-in, you might need to help them with a few of these things that we've talked about today. Anyhow, it's a great little program, and I hope that you'll give it some time with your students so they can benefit from this.